Hello, and welcome to Socially Holistic Podcast. Socially Holistic helps coaches and holistic entrepreneurs and women in heart-centered businesses make sense of social media so they can build their own online network and get more clients. As a heart-centered business owner, you do amazing work. Holly's mission in life is to help you help more people. Help us help more women in business with a 5-star review of this podcast. Please leave one today over at iTunes. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more heart-centered businesses will be successful. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the Socially Holistic Podcast, episode 28. This is your host, Holly Wharton, and I'm here with today's very special guest, Cathy Ballard. Cathy helps female entrepreneurs express their vision, purpose, and brand from the heart. Welcome, Cathy.
Hi, Holly. It's lovely to be here.
It's lovely to have you. I'm so excited to have you talking about branding from the heart because it's just such a confusing area for so many women in business, especially women who haven't been in business before.
That's so true. I think when people are looking for what they want to do as a business, or even when they've got one, they started out because they thought it was a good idea. If it's not connected to the heart, then it can bring up a lot of problems for them, or it can make them feel like their business isn't taking off the way they thought it would do, or it just brings up a lot of confusion. So totally agree.
So tell us a little bit about your background.
I think I've always been really courageous. When I was 23, I left to go travelling. I got a backpack and I took off to go travelling to Japan. I was scared, but I knew I had to do this for myself. So I was going on an adventure. I was so scared that it was like my mind couldn't focus on what was going on because it was all so new. So it sort of partly shut down and something within took over. And it felt like a real strong guiding feeling. And the flight I took, it went from London to Japan via Sri Lanka, and I had to do a stopover. And when I got back on the plane, this voice in my head kind of spoke to me and said, "Don't worry, but your backpack didn't make it onto the plane." And I was thinking, oh, that's really strange. But it was a knowing. It was quite weird. And then when I got to Japan, my backpack didn't make it. And so I was in a sort of autopilot because I was still really scared about going to another country, especially where they didn't speak English and I didn't know what I was doing. But it was perfect that the backpack didn't turn up because I just had then one bag I had to get right across the whole of, from where the airport was, into the city, across the whole subway system, out to the port, and then I had a 40-hour ferry journey. And I just wouldn't have been able to carry that backpack because it was so heavy. And as it was, I arrived at my destination, and the next morning the backpack arrived by post. So it was all so perfect. But this voice that had started kind of like making itself known to me, it was really my intuition, I guess. And I just started to, I used that whenever I went travelling then. And I stayed in Japan for a couple of years until it felt like the right time to go. And I bought a one-way ticket to India, where was it? Nepal, and then India. And I was connecting with this guidance, this inner guidance all the time as to where do I need to go next, what am I meant to do there, and just kind of following it. And it was always leading me in the right direction. If I had to get to somewhere, there would be either a person or a person I had to meet, or something I had to learn, or an experience that was really important that helped me grow. And so I did that all through India, and then I carried on doing it and just bought one-way tickets around the world. And eventually I knew I had to get to Mexico City for something. And what actually happened there was I met a spiritual teacher called Keith Mason, who's a New Zealander. And we ended up connecting, and he invited me to help him set up a retreat centre in New Zealand. And so I ended up going out there and I helped him build this place, and we ran it for about 5.5 years. So it was while I was there that I learnt all about the kind of connecting with the heart and about spiritual principles and energy. But before I'd even gone traveling, my background was in graphic design. So I was also doing their marketing and all their creative stuff. And in the end, I left the centre after, I'd been there for a good long time. And I went back to doing design. And I eventually came back to the UK and did it here. And I worked for a high-end design agency in London. But it just never gave me that same feeling that doing the healing work I'd done and working with people to help them connect with their hearts and make their lives better. I just didn't get that from design. And I knew that somehow there must be a way to bring the two together. So, after a number of years of sort of lots of exploring and going down all sorts of different avenues, it was relatively recently that I came up with my core program, which is called Brand from the Heart. And it's where I can help people really get in touch with who they are in their heart and brand their business from that place.
I love that. You talk a little bit about this on your website. You talk about how you would do this branding work with your graphic design clients, and it was the kind of work that you had to do before you got to working on the logo and the visual aspect of the work. And you realized that was really the core part of what you enjoyed.
Absolutely. It was being able to see that transformation once I'd understood what they were wanting to achieve. It's like they hadn't actually really gone into it themselves. They just wanted a logo, but I kind of took them on a bit of a journey, I suppose, to help them see their potential. And then once they bought into that, then the logo really fitted them. And it just gave them so much confidence to then go out and be who they were. And that was kind of like it was just so sweet to see that. It was great. And that was the thing that I've realised I really can help people do, is see their brilliance and then step into that and help them create that brand around it, which is like your, it's how the world sees you. It's the perception of the outer world about who you are.
And how did you get that light bulb moment where you went from, this is the part of the work that I really want to focus on?
I was at a workshop, I was at a day that was being run by Lucy Whittington. Lucy does Being a Business Celebrity. And I think it was something that she said about her own journey, because she's a marketer. She realised that she had to do all of that with her clients before she could do their marketing. And I was like, that's what I do. So, yeah, that was a big light bulb moment.
Interesting. So what are the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome in building your business? Do people really get that they need you, or do they feel like, I can just forge on with my business and just make it happen?
I think the biggest challenges for me building my business up has been how I've been overwhelmed by all the marketing should do's that I'm told that I have to do, or that that was how it was in the past. The people that I meet nowadays, that it's quite easy to kind of tap into that overwhelm that they're suffering, because it's really hard to know what you should do, what you shouldn't do, what's right for you. There's only so much time in the day that you can give to your business, and so you have to find the right avenues that work for you. And that's partly what Connecting with the Heart will do. It's about finding out what your heart thinks is the right answer, rather than leaving all of that confusion in your head. I suppose it's quite difficult. It has been quite difficult bringing my brand together, because that's been a journey for me, getting clear about what it is that I do. And because of, having done graphic design for so long, it was quite difficult to let go of actually doing the design work, because, I'm quite good at doing design and it's creative, but I know that it's not where my absolute passion is. And it's been a struggle. So there's been this gradual sort of letting go. And that's something else that I see in my clients is, helping them see the bits that they're really good at, but the bits that they're super brilliant at, when they've been trying to do all of it, just to give them that permission to let part of what they do go, so that they can focus on the best bit, and then they can outsource the bits that they were good at. So they know it's part of their overall brand, but they don't have to do everything. So I think that's been a challenge for me personally, is getting that clarity. Oh, what else? What other challenges? I think another challenge for me was having, originally I was kind of time rich and cash poor. Mm-hmm. And then I was time poor and cash poor. So, because I put all my savings into my business, because it's just, it has to work. And the way that things have transformed for me was working with high-end mentors, because this is what I've done most of, a lot of my investment has been into getting mentors. Mm-hmm. Particularly at the beginning of the year, I worked with Catherine who's just an amazing woman. Mm-hmm. And working with her gave me this sense of self-belief that I could really make a difference for people and see what the value was that I brought to them. And since then, everything's sort of it's really been taking off. A lot of the foundation work has gone into what my brand is. And then when I got my website completed, and I've also recently launched a women's networking group, it's like I've launched myself out there, and now things are really kicking off. So that would be like one of the challenges about. I know that there was a lot of fear. Maybe a lot of it was unconscious, but it was stopping me going forwards. And when you've got unconscious fears that are stopping you from going forwards, when your conscious mind, or when your goals are to get out there and to make yourself visible and get people to know about you, if you've got all these unconscious blocks, all these different sabotaging things seem to come in from everywhere. And it was like pushing a rock, boulders uphill, trying to get everything ready and get myself launched. And it was a real struggle. But yes, now I'm kind of through that particular block, and everything seems to be working a lot better.
That's good. Now, you say on your website that you have a passion for helping people connect with their inner guidance, and you've touched on that a little bit here. How do you do that? How do you get a client to start focusing on their inner wisdom rather than just staying in their head, as it's so easy to do?
A lot of it's just about really being quiet, being still, following the breath, putting your consciousness into your body, connecting to the ground, also, and putting your focus into your heart, because it's like a physical sort of feeling, but it's bringing your awareness into more of a visualization kind of place. And because when you're in your body, you don't tend to be so much in your head. It's not so busy. And I take people through different meditations to help them connect with their inner self. It comes out in pictures quite often. When you just drop down out of your head, you tend to just get really clear about what feels right inside you. So your heart can be, when you've got lots of different choices, for example, when you bring them down into your heart and sort of weigh them against one another, you get a much better sense of, okay, this is the right thing. Whereas if you don't have that awareness to actually drop into your heart and you just stay in your head, they're just lots of voices that are all shouting at you, and you don't know which one to listen to. Does that make sense?
Yes, it totally makes sense. And I think it's so natural for us to be stuck in our heads, and sometimes we can forget to go into ourselves and listen to that inner guidance that we've got.
Absolutely. And yet it is actually a really simple thing to do. And, if you put yourself into, if you get a regular meditation practice going, you tend to build up the trust in that inner voice as well. It's all about stilling the mind. And when you can still the mind, you get answers that bubble up from a much deeper place that feel like they've got more substance to them.
I love that image of the information bubbling up from that deeper place. I think that I've noticed that myself. The more I kind of get in touch with myself, little business ideas and things will just pop into my head, and it's just so juicy and perfect. And I know that it hasn't come from my head, it's come from somewhere else.
Yes.
And that's always the best stuff, those little nuggets of just fabulous business stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about branding from the heart. How do you define branding, first of all, for those people who aren't totally familiar with the concept?
Branding seems to be different for different people, but for me, it's the perception that other people have of who you are or of who a company is. It's so the reason why it's important to have one, or to make your own brand and put your stamp on what your business is that, you know, people are always going to have opinions about you, and if you're putting yourself out there, particularly online, someone is going to brand you. You're going to be known for something, so you want to get in there first and put yourself out how you want to be seen in the best light, and, you know, express what it is that you're passionate about, what the transformation is that you make for your clients, and why you're really a good investment for people to work with, what the value is. That's how I see branding.
I like that.
Much more than just your logo or you know, your website or colours or anything. It's how people pick up on you. And I mean, and another thing, that this is a recent kind of picture in my head that I've come up with, is I think we have like an energetic signature to who we are. And energy, when you look at physics, like energies are attracted. So if your energy, when it's if you're fully in your power and your brilliance, your energy is going to attract your ideal clients to it, who are attracted to that same vibration. And so if your branding that you put out there in a visual sense, or the words that you communicate, or if anything is incongruent with that that potential brand, your ideal clients that you really want to attract, they won't be able to connect with it because it's slightly incongruent and there's not a match. Does that make sense?
Yes, it totally makes sense. And I think when you get your branding really clear, then your ideal clients will know that you are right for them.
Absolutely.
And I think so many people just aren't clear on who they are, and so they're putting out this kind of watery message of, you know, I'm kind of a little bit of this, I'm kind of a little bit of that, but nothing's really clear, and so they're just not attracting the right clients because they're not being clear about who they are.
Yeah, definitely. It's partly that, and there's another problem that people run into, which is they don't want to miss out on working with other people, or they don't want other people to miss out on working with them. So they try and appeal to everybody, which waters down the message. And again, the ideal client doesn't connect with them.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I think that can be really scary when people first start out in business. You know, we all hear that we have to find our niche, and we've got to niche, and it's like this big word, and it's so many people are fearful of kind of specializing in one area and letting go of the entire rest of the market. But really, if you're not speaking to one particular group of people, you're really speaking to no one, because it's just so, your message is so kind of beige that it's not standing out to anyone.
Yeah, that's so true.
So what would you say are your top tips for how to brand your business from the heart?
Find out what you're really passionate about. I think that's probably the biggest one. And if you're already working with clients, to get in touch with what the transformation is that you do for them, so that you know that, you know, the things that light you up, you want to be able to put that passion into your brand. I think once you've got really clear about who you are, and you've looked into who your ideal client is, and you can do that by creating an avatar for them, as if they're like one specific person that you're talking to personally that you've got in mind. So if you can get into their heart and mind, and really, really understand them and what their needs are, and what keeps them awake at night, what troubles that they've got, and what the work is that you do that can solve their problems. Once you've got that clarity, then you can start looking at, well, okay, what visuals would express me? What colours do I like? A question I quite often ask clients is, if you were a dessert or some sort of confectionery, what would you be? It brings up all sorts of questions when they go inside, because it's about going inside and finding sort of intangible feelings about who they are, which gives a little indicator about what their brand kind of could be, because they're all so different, you know. And then I always, for myself, I think I've just always been very visual, so I'm very strong with colour. I've always been really interested in symbolism. And so for my own particular brand is it's got lots of butterflies, and it's all about women, and a lot of goddess kind of symbolism in there. A lot of it's hidden actually, but I know what it is. So if there's things that represent you, what I would suggest is to start keeping like a little file of images that you don't have to put everything into your brand, but just if you're going to work with a designer, to give them lots of visual references that kind of sums you up, a bit like a mood board or something. That's really going to help them. Because it will stop them using their own, this is what you should do. Because that's often a trap. That if you're not clear about your brand and you go to a designer and you expect them to do it for you, and you don't give them the clarity about who you are, the designer is going to use their understanding and knowledge of how branding works. They won't necessarily get your real essence. So although they might do a really beautiful job, it probably won't be you, so you won't be totally happy with it.
I think that's so important. I think that so many new business owners don't know how to work with graphic designers, and they don't know particularly how to communicate with them. And so I think a lot of people are really unhappy with the work that they get, but it's because they haven't provided a clear communication of what exactly it is that they want.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the same goes for copywriters too. If you can collect, well, likewise with copy, if there's bits of copy that you think, oh, that's so good, that so fits me, and you can, just keep these all in little files so that when you are ready to create a website or create some marketing copy for something or a marketing piece, you've got a lot of reference material that you can then take to a designer or copywriter, and you can explain why these bits represent you, and and add your own information about what transformations you make for people and who the kind of clients you work with.
I really, really like those tips, and I think those are things that a lot of people wouldn't have thought of. So do you have any women business mentors? Are there any women in business who inspire you?
When I mentioned before Catherine Diva, she was my mentor at the beginning of the year, and she's just incredible. She teaches a lot about changing your beliefs. She's such a transformational woman. I think there's 22 of us on this first course that we were part of, and by the end of the first day, we were still doing introductions because she'd just honed in on every person, and you could see that all of these women were changed by the end of the day, just from having talked to her, and also the impact of all the other women. So definitely Catherine Watkin. She's been a great mentor. She's my current mentor, and I think one of my biggest challenges has been money, and I set my intention for 2013 to get over my money stuff and to really learn about it, and to get past my blocks and fears and whatever was holding me back. And one of them was sales and selling, selling myself, talking about money. And I heard Catherine on a webinar. I knew Catherine already, and I just kind of tuned in just to see what her stuff was about. I wasn't intending to buy. And she just did such an amazing webinar. I was there with my credit card at the end. So having done her course, which is called the 7 Steps to Yes, it's such a simple process that, it's transformed my business. And I'm really enjoying doing sales because I know how much it can help people doing the work that I do. So, and it helps them know whether I'm the right person for them to work with, and vice versa. Yeah. So it's a really authentic way of working.
Yeah, I really love how she does the sales conversation rather than closing the sale.
Absolutely.
Like, it's all about finding whether they're the right client for you and you're the right person for them.
Yeah. Another woman is Alison Marlowe, who is the founder of Winning Women, Global Winning Women, she's rebranded to. And I've just become ambassador for Winning Women Central London. And I love her ethos about networking. And the reason that I kind of wanted to do it was, I believe that for women particularly, going to networking meetings where you have to go in your head and do the 60 seconds and try and get who you are across in such a short time to a room full of people. I just find that really unpleasant, and I just felt that there must be another way to do that that works better for women. And all of this thrusting business cards at each other, it just doesn't feel right. And so this was an opportunity to bring women together who were all heart-centered, wanted to do networking and actually connect with each other in a much more comfortable environment. So I get them to set intentions at the beginning of the meeting about what they want from the meeting, about who they need to meet. And, that way there's not a rush to have to get around everyone. There's a kind of real trust that they meet the right people. Make the right connections, and there's some great connections now going on in the group. And I was thrilled that the actual launch sold out, so it was just an amazing evening. And it's all about having great speakers, giving great value, and encouraging those connections and collaborations to happen within the group. So there's a lot of joint venture partnerships that are starting to take place, and it's just really exciting how much Alison's business is now growing, and I really want to get behind it and help see that grow, possibly internationally. So, watch this space for that.
Oh, sounds good. And now I'm really, really curious about attending one of your networking events, so I'll definitely be looking for that.
One of the other women that I met that I knew Alison would have to connect with, there was a phenomenal woman. She's just incredible. She's called Gillian Haslam. And I went to a one-day seminar that she was doing, and I heard her own personal story. She's a business coach, and she lives in Hertfordshire, and she's a philanthropist and a multimillionaire, and she does work with corporates and all sorts of things around the world. But where she started in life was in poverty, living in a slum in India.
Oh, yes, I've heard about her.
She's just the most beautiful, really gentle, loving, heart-centered woman, and is totally unaffected by, she has no negative kind of feelings about what happened in her early years. And she watched 4 siblings die from malnutrition and, starvation. And she just, at one point, when I think she said she was about 8, she decided that she had to overcome her situation and save her family. And this determination and just belief in that she could keep going and to make things happen, it's just transformed her life. And she ended up working her way up through, I think it was the Bank of America in India. And she ended up getting right to the top and doing so much work for charities all around India and all around the world. And so now she eventually came over to the UK, where originally her parents were from, and is now doing all this work in India and over in the UK, helping people kind of grow and realise that they can do anything if they just put their minds to it. And it just fits so well with what I believe. So I've hooked her and Alison up, and hopefully we're going to be doing some work together, because part of what Alison's vision is to create networks where we can be supporting women in developing countries financially and in other kind of ways, maybe mentorship or something like this, so that they can improve their lives. So it's all tying in together. It's going to be an exciting year next year, I think.
Sounds good. Well, why don't you share with us a little bit about how other women in business can benefit from working with you?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that has the most impact for the clients I've worked with is that because I come from quite a spiritual place, and I attract people who have that sort of, they're more attracted to the spiritual or getting in touch with their feelings, and I can help them get in touch with their heart so that they know what the answers are for themselves, so that they can make decisions that are aligned with their purpose, and they know it deep inside. So I help people, I coach them using connection to the heart. But also when you do that, it's aligned with your purpose. It also gives you amazing clarity about what you need to do, because you're not so confused by all of those voices in your head. And then I can help people create that visual brand that really represents them, because I think a lot of people they're kind of maybe clear about who they are and what they want to do, but how that translates in a visual sense, they just don't have that skill. And I do seem to be able to see them really clearly, help them, kind of almost like it's mirrored back to them. I can mirror who I see back to them so that they see themselves even brighter.
I like that.
And we can create a brand around that's authentic and, that makes them feel confident and excited to be getting out there into the big wide world and telling people about what they do. Part of what stops us really shining and being that full vibration that I was talking about before is all the fears and visibility issues and fear of being rejected or judged. And so I've got training in NLP and emotional freedom techniques, and I'm Reiki master, and I run the retreat center for several years doing energy work. So I've got all sorts of tools that can help people kind of go through those blocks that are stopping them from being their best selves. So when they start with me, they can start from what I take them through is called my Brand from the Heart Blueprint, and it helps them unpack everything about who they are and their clients and who they would love to work with and what's in the way of them, how they see what's in the way of them being successful. And it sort of we create a roadmap together so that and this all their answers will show me where their blocks are and what the gaps are. So together we can sort of plug those gaps and move them through. And that might be through just doing a one-day VIP day with this program, or ongoing coaching, like for a 3-month get your brand in the spotlight kind of package. Or I do a 6-month package as well, which will help you really ground some of these beliefs and ways of using your thoughts to create your reality. I think that's the thing that I'm most passionate about, actually, is helping people create the realities that they really want to experience.
I love that. That sounds fantastic. So where can people find you online to learn a little bit more about you?
My website is cathyballard.com. That's CathyBallard, cathyballard.com. And you can get me on Facebook as well. And probably just search under the same name. And on Twitter, I'm at Cathy Ballard. I think those are probably the 3 places that you'll probably track me down.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Is there anything else you would like to share with our listeners before we sign off?
I think I've kind of shared everything that I can think about for my business, but just like to say thank you for having me. And it's been so great to share this with you. And yeah, it's just thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for joining us. And thank you very much for listening. And remember to visit sociallyholistic.com/SHP28 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Socially Holistic Podcast with your host, Holly Wharton. Please help us help more women in business by giving us a 5-star review of this podcast. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more successful businesses there will be. So please leave a 5-star review today over at iTunes. Thank you.